A secret was never supposed to leave Buckingham Palace. But when Princess Anne finally spoke, it didn't just surprise King Charles, it rewrote the future of the crown. For years, this message lay hidden, tucked away, not in the pages of official history, but in the quiet corners of memory. No cameras recorded it. No documents bear its trace. It lived only in the mind of one woman, Anne, the Queen's most loyal and silent daughter. It was never meant for the world to hear, not even meant for Charles. But as time moved forward and the burden of the crown shifted from one generation to the next, something inside Anne stirred. The truth could no longer remain buried. The moment had come, and with it, a revelation that would shatter assumptions and send a ripple through the royal order. It happened not in a grand hall, but in a small, sacred family gathering. No aides, no press, no distractions, only blood ties and the weight of legacy in the air. Anne, known for her restraint, sat surrounded by the royal inner circle. And then, she did the unthinkable. She opened her mouth and spoke words no one expected. Her tone wasn't nostalgic. It wasn't gentle. It was exact, measured, and deliberate. She didn't offer an opinion. She delivered a message, a prophecy, not hers, but Queen Elizabeth's. The Queen, in her final days, had shared something with Anne, something that shook the very idea of who the future truly belonged to. This wasn't the kind of message meant for record. It wasn't delivered with fanfare or trapped in bureaucracy. It was far more dangerous. It was personal. A belief whispered only once. Elizabeth had looked beyond titles and bloodlines, beyond the heir presumptive. Her focus had shifted to someone unexpected, someone who had never asked for the spotlight, but had earned it through silent strength and steady resolve. Catherine. Anne's voice didn't waver. Her words landed like stone on polished floors. Even Charles, usually stoic and composed, froze. His eyes locked on Anne, waiting for her to flinch, to clarify, to soften the blow. But she didn't, because it wasn't her truth. It was the Queen's, and she had carried it long enough. The room, heavy with protocol and centuries of tradition, suddenly felt unmoored. The Queen's message wasn't about duty alone. It was about destiny. Catherine, the woman who had remained in the background for years, was now being thrust forward by the one person whose opinion carried the weight of a kingdom. A woman who had worn the crown longer than any other. Anne didn't share the message out of emotion or rebellion. She did it because, as she later said, the moment couldn't wait any longer. But what exactly did Queen Elizabeth say? And why? Did it leave Charles frozen in his seat? This wasn't about titles. It wasn't about blood. It was about a truth the Queen whispered only once, and only to the one she trusted most. In her final days, when the world still believed Queen Elizabeth was guiding the monarchy with unshakable resolve, a very different truth was unfolding behind palace walls. Beneath the calm exterior and ceremonial poise, Elizabeth was watching, calculating, and making a final quiet judgment, not about who would wear the crown, but about who would protect it. That decision wasn't carved in stone, and it wasn't spoken in public. It was delivered in a soft voice to a single person, Princess Anne. No grand council, no signature on parchment, just a mother, facing the end, passing on the truth she couldn't risk burying. She did not name Charles. She didn't even look to William. Instead, she turned her attention to the one figure who had remained steady through royal storms and media fire. A woman who never begged for praise, who never chased the throne, but who, in silence, had already begun shaping its future, Catherine. To Anne, Elizabeth confided her fears. She saw a monarchy teetering on the edge of irrelevance, struggling under scrutiny, and gasping for a voice that could command trust without demanding power. In Catherine, she saw more than grace. She saw fortitude. She saw a pillar. The Queen spoke not as a sovereign, but as a guardian, deeply aware of the tides shifting beneath the palace. The rules were changing. The world was watching differently now. And if the monarchy was to endure, it would need something far stronger than ceremonial crowns and lineage. It would need a heart calm, resolute, and unflinching. Elizabeth didn't choose Catherine to succeed anyone in title. She chose her to preserve everything the crown had come to mean. She knew Catherine would never try to replace Charles. That wasn't the point. Her vision wasn't a rebellion against tradition, it was a reinforcement of it. Catherine, with her quiet discipline and modern understanding of duty, represented the bridge between the institution's past and the world it must now face. She wasn't just another royal consort. She was the monarchy's anchor in a century that no longer bows blindly to thrones. And for Elizabeth, the risk of not recognizing that was too great. So, she whispered the truth to Anne. A single moment, a quiet prophecy. And in doing so, she rewrote the monarchy's future not with force, but with foresight. Catherine was not chosen for what she was born into. She was chosen for what she became. But while the Queen saw Catherine as the monarchy's anchor, the public saw something very different. She did fewer royal engagements than anyone expected, and the backlash was brutal. But what the public didn't see was everything. When the official court circular for 2023 was released, it didn't take long for headlines to explode. One name, once again, stood at the top: Princess Anne, with a staggering 457 royal engagements. She was lauded as the monarchy's workhorse, the relentless face of royal duty. But further down that list, another name stood out for very different reasons: Catherine, Princess of Wales, with just 128 appearances. The contrast was sharp. The judgment came swiftly. Social media erupted with accusations. Commentators questioned her dedication. Tabloids branded her with words like lazy, disengaged, even disinterested. In a year when the monarchy desperately needed unity, some believed Catherine was quietly pulling away. But they were wrong. So deeply, unforgivably wrong. Because what they failed to understand was that every empty space on Catherine's schedule was filled with something far more important than photo ops and ceremonial waves. While Anne was performing state duties, Catherine was making sacrifices that couldn't be counted in public appearances. She was investing in something the monarchy had long neglected: the future. Insiders close to the palace quietly pushed back against the noise. Catherine hadn't vanished. She had chosen. She had chosen to step back, not because the role overwhelmed her, but because something more pressing demanded her focus. She was raising 3 children, 3 heirs to a centuries-old institution that now teetered under the pressure of public doubt and generational disinterest. She wasn't hiding. She was preparing. George, Charlotte, and Louis weren't just her children. They were the future of the monarchy. And Catherine was determined they would carry that future with strength, substance, and empathy. This wasn't about neglect. It was about redefining duty. Catherine understood what the world didn't. Royal service isn't always visible. It doesn't always happen in front of cameras. Sometimes it's found in the small, quiet moments that shape character and legacy. She didn't need applause. She needed time. Time to teach, guide, and be present for the young minds who would, one day, wear the weight of the crown. And behind this choice was a woman who understood that her legacy wouldn't be built in public, but in silence. She's the monarchy's iron spine, known for duty and discipline. But even Princess Anne defended the one woman critics love to doubt. When the pressure was mounting and the criticism grew louder, few expected Princess Anne to say anything. After all, she's the embodiment of stoic silence, the royal who lets actions speak and tradition carry the weight. She has never been one to step into drama, let alone defend someone so publicly scrutinized. But this time was different, because the target of the world's judgment wasn't just another royal, it was Catherine. And behind the palace's quiet walls, Anne had been watching closely. And what she saw didn't disappoint her. It moved her. In a rare moment of candor, Anne didn't just acknowledge Catherine's absence from the public spotlight, she respected it. She understood what most couldn't. Catherine wasn't neglecting duty. She was redefining it. Anne, the most visibly active royal of her generation, recognized something few dared to say: that the greatest sacrifices often happen behind closed doors, where no court photographer can reach. Catherine's choice to step back, to focus on shaping the emotional strength of her children, wasn't a retreat. It was strategy. It was service. It was love expressed not in engagements, but in devotion to the ones who will carry the crown into the next era. Anne didn't just approve of Catherine's choice. She validated it in the most powerful way a royal could not, with public declarations, but through solidarity. That subtle, unspoken nod was louder than any press release. It told the world that discipline doesn't only look like a packed calendar, it can also look like a mother quietly nurturing the next monarchs. Anne, who carried the burden of tradition alone for decades, saw her own values reflected in Catherine's restraint. And slowly, a bond began to form. Not out of friendship, but out of recognition. Shared burdens, shared silence, shared fire. The public had no idea how much Anne had come to admire Catherine's approach. But within the palace, it was unmistakable. The two women, separated by decades, connected through something stronger than blood purpose. They weren't fighting for headlines. They were building legacies. Together, they challenged the old blueprint of what royal womanhood should look like. Where others performed, they persevered. Where others demanded attention, they mastered endurance. In Anne's quiet defense of Catherine, a new alliance was born, one not forged in public, but in principle. Two women with no interest in fanfare. Two women holding up the monarchy in ways few even recognize. But that mutual respect wasn't just about shared values. It became the foundation for a quiet mentorship. They never chased headlines, but together, Anne and Catherine built a bond that could one day change everything. Behind palace gates, far from flashing bulbs and media frenzies, something rare was quietly unfolding, a silent exchange between two of the monarchy's most unshakable women. Anne, shaped by decades of relentless duty, had long stood as a lone pillar of discipline and discretion. She didn't lecture, and she didn't demand. But Catherine listened anyway, because in Anne, she saw more than a royal. She saw a blueprint for survival. And over the years, that quiet respect transformed into something deeper, a mentorship built not on ceremony, but on shared silence and unwavering conviction. There were no grand announcements, no official roles, but there were conversations, private, intentional, and honest. Anne began offering quiet guidance in places the public would never see, not with praise, but with presence. She knew the burdens Catherine was about to carry, and she knew how heavy they could become. So she gave her what few others in the firm could: context, clarity, and strength. And Catherine absorbed it all, not for power, but for preparation. While the world compared tiaras and tabloid appearances, Catherine was studying something else entirely: Anne's legacy. She watched how Anne endured without applause, how she never complained, how she always showed up. It wasn't about being seen, it was about being solid. That kind of service, the kind no one celebrates, became Catherine's aspiration. Not dominance, not popularity, but a depth of duty the crown was going to need more than ever in the years ahead. Their connection deepened not through showmanship, but through purpose. Royal initiatives began to reflect shared values, projects rooted in children, community, and global service. It wasn't coincidence, it was alignment, subtle shifts in approach, parallel commitments. They were never on the same stage, but they were moving in tandem. And within that harmony, a symbolic passing of the torch had begun. Anne, never one to soften, had finally seen a successor not in title, but in temperament. Catherine didn't ask for Anne's approval, but she earned it. Through restraint, through persistence, through the grace of holding back when the world expected her to speak. And Anne, in return, offered something few royals ever give: trust. Because for a woman who had guarded the monarchy's integrity for decades, trust was the highest form of loyalty. But while Anne thrived in a quieter, simpler media world, Catherine stepped into something far more dangerous. Anne faced reporters. Catherine faces algorithms. And in this modern war zone, every blink is dissected. There was a time when royals had the luxury of silence, when a missed engagement or an awkward glance might make the newspapers, only to be forgotten by morning. But that time is gone. Catherine doesn't live in that world. She lives in a digital arena where nothing is forgiven and nothing is forgotten. The pace is brutal, the pressure relentless, Every smile is questioned, every absence weaponized. She isn't just a royal anymore, she's a permanent target in a battlefield ruled by speculation and speed. The same walls that once protected the monarchy now echo with the sound of viral judgment, and Catherine stands at the center of it all. Social media has stripped away every buffer. It doesn't wait for context or clarification. It doesn't respect timing, and it never forgets. The rules Anne once followed show up, serve, stay silent, no longer hold the same power. Where Anne had time to make mistakes quietly, Catherine is crucified in real time. Every movement, every look, even the way she breathes, becomes content for millions of screens. And the cruelty isn't just loud, it's strategic. Anonymous critics, endless hashtags, conspiracy threads spun in minutes and believed in hours. She's not just enduring scrutiny. She's enduring a storm that never ends. And yet, she says nothing. She doesn't clap back. She doesn't explain. Because Catherine understands something most don't. Fighting noise with noise is a losing battle. Instead, she stays silent, steady. She plays the long game. Not because she's weak, but because she's calculated. There's power in patience. She doesn't chase the narrative, she lets it burn out. While others panic under the weight of trending topics, she lets time do the talking. And over time, those who matter begin to see the truth. But that truth is hard to hear when criticism comes from every direction. Too public? She's accused of trying too hard. Too private? She's labeled indifferent. Too warm? It's fake. Too reserved? She's cold. There is no winning in the court of public perception. And yet she keeps walking head high, eyes forward, heart guarded. Because Catherine isn't playing for applause. She's preparing for permanence. She knows this isn't a role built for comfort. It's built for survival. And in today's age, survival means weathering storms no other royal has ever known. But what sets her apart is her refusal to break, even when the pressure is designed to shatter. She doesn't explain. She endures. She doesn't retreat. She recalibrates. And in doing so, she's rewriting the very nature of royal resilience. And then came the moment the critics never expected. Catherine putting motherhood before monarchy. She missed one of the year's biggest royal events. The world assumed scandal. But the truth? It was about a mother and her son. When Catherine's name was suddenly absent from the Earthshot Prize ceremony in 2023, a cornerstone event tied to Prince William's environmental legacy, the media pounced. Theories erupted like wildfire. Was it health? Was there tension in the palace? Was something wrong between her and William? For days, headlines speculated, and critics sharpened their knives. In a monarchy where appearances often carry more weight than intent, her silence only fueled the flames. But then, just as the frenzy hit its peak, the truth surfaced. Quiet, unassuming, and completely devastating in its simplicity. "I've been helping George," she said. "No spin, no damage control, just a mother choosing presence over prestige." That night, while the world measured her commitment to the crown, she was at home sitting beside her son as he prepared for exams that symbolized not just academic pressure, but the burden of growing up in the royal spotlight. Catherine didn't disappear. She prioritized, and in doing so, she shattered the illusion that royal duty must always come first. This wasn't a snub. It wasn't avoidance. It was love, deliberate and powerful. She knew what the headlines would say. She knew the backlash would come. But she made her decision anyway, because the monarchy she believes in doesn't thrive on photo ops. It survives on strong, grounded successors. She didn't choose scandal. She chose legacy. And once again, Princess Anne, the woman who defines royal responsibility, stood behind her. Anne, who rarely comments on personal matters, offered public support that spoke volumes. She praised Catherine's priorities, defending her against an institution and a press corps that still struggles to see motherhood as leadership. That night, Catherine didn't wear a gown or pose for the cameras. She sat with her son. And in doing so, she made a statement louder than any royal speech. Because Catherine isn't just raising children, she's shaping future monarchs with every quiet sacrifice. Behind palace walls, she's not just learning how to wave from balconies. She's preparing to protect a centuries-old institution. While critics obsess over her absence and the press hunts for smiles and slip-ups, Catherine has been building something the cameras can't see: a foundation of knowledge, strategy, and substance. Her education didn't end with a wedding. It began there. From the moment she entered royal life, she began absorbing the machinery of the monarchy with precision most people overlooked. Statecraft, diplomacy, international relations, policy briefings. This wasn't symbolic exposure. It was strategic immersion. She wasn't playing the role of a princess. She was learning how to preserve a kingdom. Catherine doesn't lead with spectacle. She leads with substance. She's not chasing headlines because she's chasing permanence. Every move is calculated. Every pause is deliberate. She knows this isn't just about ribbon cuttings and rehearsed speeches. It's about being able to stand when the crown begins to shake. Her investment in causes like mental health and early childhood development isn't a PR move, it's a declaration of priorities. She's planting seeds that will grow long after the cameras leave. Because Catherine's mission isn't to be relevant, it's to be essential. Unlike many who came before her, she doesn't crave the throne. She prepares for the responsibility it casts on everyone around it. Her power lies in understanding that survival in today's world means blending tradition with transformation. That doesn't happen by accident. It happens with time, humility, and relentless study. While others lean on public adoration, Catherine is mastering the intricacies of a modern monarchy behind closed doors. She is being shaped into something the firm hasn't seen in generations, a strategist who understands both the weight of the past and the necessity of evolving for the future. And Queen Elizabeth saw it, before the world did, before even some within the palace understood it. Elizabeth recognized the quiet intensity behind Catherine's calm exterior. That's why she entrusted Anne with that final message. Because she knew what she was seeing wasn't coincidence, it was character. Strength disguised as softness. Leadership wrapped in discretion. A woman not content to merely represent the monarchy, but prepared to defend it from within. And now, with the Queen gone and Anne by her side, the question becomes, will the monarchy follow tradition or follow strength? She may never sit on the throne, but make no mistake, she already carries its weight. In a world that equates power with presence and leadership with volume, Catherine stands as a quiet rebellion. She doesn't rule a nation, but she governs something far more fragile, the perception of the monarchy itself. When the institution teeters under modern scrutiny, it isn't always the crown that steadies it. It's the calm resolve of someone who never sought the spotlight, but earned the right to carry its burden. Catherine represents a new kind of royalty, one built not on ceremony, but on character. One that trades entitlement for empathy and spectacle for strength. She doesn't ask for trust. She earns it. Slowly, deliberately, silently. What Queen Elizabeth saw wasn't just grace under pressure. It was vision wrapped in restraint. Catherine doesn't rise to the moment, she prepares for it long before anyone else sees it coming. In a world flooded with image, she's rooted in substance. And that, more than any title or protocol, is what the monarchy now desperately needs. Her choices aren't for applause, they're for longevity. Every act of restraint, every step back from chaos, is a step forward in redefining what power in the royal family looks like. Elizabeth's final prophecy didn't revolve around inheritance. It wasn't about who wears the crown. It was about who holds the legacy. The Queen understood something few dared to admit aloud, that the monarchy's survival would depend not on the heir, but on the anchor. Catherine's presence doesn't compete with William's, it stabilizes it. She doesn't overshadow the monarch, she protects the institution. And she does it with a kind of grace that doesn't require crowns or proclamations. Her power lives in quiet moments, difficult decisions, and the sacrifices no one sees. The public still debates her worth in numbers, still tallies appearances and photographs. But that metric no longer applies, because Catherine isn't here to entertain. She's here to endure. Where others faltered beneath scrutiny or collapsed beneath ego, she has remained immovable, unchanged by popularity, unbent by pressure. And in that steadiness, she's become something the monarchy didn't know it needed: its unshakable foundation. She may never have a coronation. She may never hold a scepter or wear a sovereign's robe, but her influence is already shaping the throne. Not through command, but through constancy. Not through domination, but through dignity. Catherine isn't just part of the royal family, she may be its last best hope. The crown may pass from hand to hand, but the legacy of the monarchy rests in those who choose duty over display and grace over glory. And in Catherine, the Queen saw both. Drop your thoughts in the comments section. Thanks for watching, and make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.